Most people spend their entire lives fighting the wrong enemy. They fight circumstances. They fight other people. They fight bad luck. They fight the economy. They fight rejection. They fight failure. But the world has never been fighting you. It has only been reflecting you. Every frustration, every repeated disappointment, every relationship that ends the same way, every goal that stays just out of reach is showing you something you have refused to see inside yourself. This is the mirror principle. And once you understand it, you will stop trying to change the world and start changing the only thing that has ever created your reality. You.
Stop blaming the world. It is only reflecting you. Most people spend their entire lives fighting shadows. They fight circumstances. They fight other people. They fight bad luck. They fight rejection. They fight failure. They fight reality itself. And then they wonder why nothing changes. Because they are fighting the reflection instead of understanding the mirror. That is the first truth you must understand. The mirror is not attacking you. The mirror is revealing you. Read that again in your mind. The mirror is not attacking you. The mirror is revealing you. Most people wake up every morning believing life is happening to them. They believe the difficult boss is the problem. The difficult partner is the problem. The economy is the problem. Their childhood is the problem. Their circumstances are the problem. And while those things may be difficult, they are not the deepest issue. The deeper issue is how they are interpreting, responding to, and unconsciously recreating the same patterns over and over again. Because reality is constantly reflecting what is happening inside of you. Your reality is reporting your inner condition. That is the key. Imagine standing in front of a mirror and seeing dirt on your face. A foolish person attacks the mirror. They blame the lighting. They blame the glass. They blame the frame. They blame the room. A wise person cleans their face. The mirror was never the problem. The mirror was simply reporting the truth. Your life works the same way. When insecurity lives inside you, the world reflects situations that expose insecurity. When fear lives inside you, the world reflects situations that activate fear. When self-doubt lives inside you, the world reflects experiences that strengthen self-doubt. Not because the universe hates you. Not because life is unfair. But because reality is constantly revealing what still needs your attention. The mirror is not attacking you. The mirror is revealing you. Think about the person who constantly complains that nobody respects them. Different city. Different job. Different friends. Different relationship. Same complaint. Nobody respects me. After 10 years, the faces change. The story stays the same. At what point do we stop blaming the world and start asking a different question? What if the world is not the source of the problem? What if the world is reflecting something already happening inside? What if that person secretly does not respect themselves? What if they tolerate behavior they should not tolerate? What if they never establish boundaries? What if they are teaching people how to treat them? Suddenly the entire situation changes. Now they have power. Because if the problem is internal, transformation becomes possible. If the problem is always external, they remain trapped forever. You have a choice. You can spend your life blaming, or you can spend your life learning. You can spend your life pointing outward, or you can begin looking inward. That's the key. The people who transform their lives understand something that most people never learn. Patterns are messages. Patterns are mirrors. Patterns are teachers. Look carefully at your life. Have you noticed how the same lessons keep returning? Different relationship. Same heartbreak. Different employer. Same frustration. Different business opportunity. Same disappointment. Different environment. Same emotional reaction. Why? Because the lesson has not been learned. Life is patient. The mirror never gets tired. It keeps showing you the same thing until you finally see it. Consider someone who repeatedly enters toxic relationships. At first, they blame their partners. The first partner was toxic. The second partner was toxic. The third partner was toxic. The fourth partner was toxic. Maybe that is true. But eventually another question becomes necessary. Why does the same type of person keep appearing? Why does the same pattern keep repeating? What invisible belief is attracting this experience? What wound keeps selecting familiar pain? The mirror is not attacking you. The mirror is revealing you. That realization changes everything. Because once you stop asking, why does this keep happening to me? You begin asking, what is this trying to teach me? And that question opens the door to transformation. Most people never reach this point. Their ego prevents it. Because the ego loves blame. Blame feels safe. Blame protects identity. Blame removes responsibility. But blame also removes power. The moment you blame everything outside yourself, you surrender your ability to change anything. Because now your happiness depends on other people changing. And other people rarely change on your schedule. You don't need their permission. You don't need the world's permission. You don't need perfect circumstances. You need awareness. That's the key. Awareness creates freedom. Without awareness, you repeat. With awareness, you evolve. Look at the most successful people you know. Not the richest. Not the most famous. The strongest. The wisest. The most emotionally resilient. What separates them? It is not luck. It is not talent. It is not perfection. It is ownership. They take responsibility for their inner world. When something goes wrong, they ask, "What can I learn? What can I improve? What belief is creating this result? What part of me needs to grow?" They understand that every experience contains information. Every challenge contains feedback. Every obstacle contains a lesson. Your reality is reporting your inner condition. That phrase alone can change your life. Because once you understand it, every experience becomes valuable. Rejection becomes information. Failure becomes information. Conflict becomes information. Disappointment becomes information. Nothing is wasted. Everything becomes part of your education. You stop seeing yourself as a victim. You start seeing yourself as a student. And students grow. Victims repeat. You have a choice. Every single day. You can look at the mirror and complain about what you see. Or you can use the reflection to transform yourself. One path creates suffering. The other creates power. The truth is simple. Life is not punishing you. Life is revealing you. The difficult conversation. The financial struggle. The relationship challenge. The recurring frustration. Each one is showing you something. Each one is reflecting something. Each one is inviting you into greater awareness. Most people refuse the invitation. They spend decades fighting reflections. Do not become one of them. Become the observer. Become the student. Become the person willing to look honestly at what life is showing you. Because the moment you stop fighting the mirror, you begin learning from it. And the moment you begin learning from it, your reality starts to change. The mirror is not attacking you. The mirror is revealing you. Your reality is reporting your inner condition. Remember those words, because they form the foundation for everything that follows. Once you understand that reality is a mirror, another question naturally emerges. If the world is reflecting something inside you, then what exactly is being reflected? What hidden forces are creating these reactions? What invisible wounds are shaping your experiences? You are about to discover the answer. And it begins with every emotional reaction you have ever tried to avoid. Every trigger is a message. Most people spend their lives trying to avoid discomfort. They avoid criticism. They avoid rejection. They avoid embarrassment. They avoid conflict. They avoid difficult emotions. And because they spend their lives avoiding discomfort, they spend their lives avoiding growth. That is the problem. Every time life touches a wound inside you, your first instinct is to look away. Your first instinct is to blame. Your first instinct is to defend. Your first instinct is to attack. But what if the discomfort is not the enemy? What if the discomfort is the message? That is the lesson of this chapter. Your triggers are not punishments. They are invitations. What hurts you teaches you. Read that again. Your triggers are not punishments. They are invitations. What hurts you teaches you. Most people misunderstand emotional reactions. They think their anger is caused by other people. They think their jealousy is caused by other people. They think their insecurity is caused by other people. But other people often do not create these emotions. They reveal them. That distinction changes everything. Imagine a person who becomes furious whenever they are criticized. A simple comment ruins their day. A suggestion feels like an attack. A disagreement feels like disrespect. Why? Is it because criticism is inherently dangerous? No. The trigger is revealing something deeper. Perhaps they spent years believing they were never good enough. Perhaps they built their identity around being perfect. Perhaps their self-worth is fragile. The criticism did not create the wound. The criticism exposed the wound. The mirror is not attacking you. The mirror is revealing you. That's the key. Think about jealousy. Most people hate admitting they feel it. But jealousy is one of the most honest emotions you will ever experience. When someone else's success bothers you, life is showing you something. Not about them. About you. Perhaps they possess qualities you have neglected. Perhaps they pursued opportunities you were afraid to pursue. Perhaps they became the person you secretly wish you had become. The jealousy is not the problem. The message is the opportunity. You have a choice. You can resent the person, or you can learn from the emotion. One path creates bitterness. The other creates growth. What hurts you teaches you. The same principle applies to anger. Now understand this carefully. Anger itself is not bad. Anger is information. Anger tells you something matters. Anger tells you a boundary may have been crossed. Anger tells you a value may have been violated. But most people never investigate the message. They become consumed by the reaction. Instead of asking, "Why am I angry?" they ask, "Who can I blame?" And that question keeps them trapped. Because blame ends curiosity. Curiosity creates transformation. That's the key. Every emotional reaction contains information. Every trigger contains information. Every uncomfortable feeling contains information. The question is whether you are willing to listen. Most people are not. That is why they repeat the same patterns. Life sends the lesson. They ignore it. Life sends it again. They ignore it again. Eventually the lesson grows louder. Because what remains unconscious controls your life. Consider a man named David. For years, David complained that people never appreciated him. At work, he felt overlooked. In relationships, he felt ignored. With friends, he felt undervalued. The story never changed. The environment changed. The people changed. the story remained. One day he finally asked a different question. Instead of asking why nobody appreciated him, he asked why he needed constant appreciation in the first place. That question changed everything. He discovered that his self-worth depended entirely on external validation. He needed praise because he could not provide it for himself. The trigger revealed the wound. The wound revealed the lesson. The lesson created freedom. Your triggers are not punishments. They are invitations. What hurts you teaches you. This is why emotionally mature people grow faster than everyone else. Not because they suffer less. Because they learn more. When discomfort arrives, they become curious. They investigate. They reflect. They observe. They ask, "What is this teaching me?" That simple question has transformed countless lives. Because growth begins where defensiveness ends. Most people defend their limitations. Few people examine them. You have a choice. You can protect your ego. Or you can strengthen your character. Those are not the same thing. Protecting your ego feels comfortable. Strengthening your character creates freedom. Now let's talk about one of the biggest triggers of all. Rejection. Nothing exposes hidden beliefs faster than rejection. A rejected job application. A rejected business proposal. A rejected relationship. A rejected dream. Rejection acts like a spotlight. It illuminates beliefs that were already there. One person experiences rejection and thinks, "I am worthless." Another experiences the same rejection and thinks, "This wasn't the right opportunity." Same event. Different interpretation. Different outcome. The event is not creating the suffering. The meaning attached to the event is creating the suffering. That's the key. This is why emotional mastery matters. Not because life becomes easier. Because you become stronger. You stop reacting automatically. You start responding consciously. And that shift changes everything. For the next week, try something different. Every time you feel emotionally triggered, pause. Do not react immediately. Do not send the message. Do not make the phone call. Do not start the argument. Pause. Take a breath. Ask yourself 3 questions. What happened? What did I feel? What is this feeling trying to teach me? That simple exercise can reveal years of unconscious patterns. Because awareness creates distance. And distance creates freedom. It's not about emotion. It's about discipline. It's not about avoiding triggers. It's about understanding them. It's not about becoming emotionless. It's about becoming conscious. Most people want a life free of discomfort. That is impossible. The goal is not to eliminate discomfort. The goal is to use discomfort wisely. The goal is to transform every trigger into a teacher, every frustration into feedback, every emotional reaction into awareness. That is how growth happens. That is how patterns break. That is how lives change. Remember this. The people who irritate you most often reveal the lessons you need most. The situations that frustrate you most often expose the beliefs limiting you most. The emotions you avoid most often contain the wisdom you need most. The trigger is not the problem. Ignoring the message is the problem. What hurts you teaches you. Your triggers are not punishments. They are invitations. The mirror is not attacking you. The mirror is revealing you. And once you begin listening to the messages hidden inside your emotional reactions, another truth becomes impossible to ignore. Many of your triggers come from trying to control what was never yours to control. Other people, their opinions, their choices, their behavior. That battle has exhausted millions of people. And it is the next illusion we must destroy. Because the moment you stop trying to fix everyone else, you finally gain the power to transform yourself. Stop fixing people and start facing yourself. One of the most exhausting habits in human life is the belief that your peace depends on changing someone else. You believe your spouse needs to change. Your parents need to change. Your boss needs to change. Your coworkers need to change. Your friends need to change. You create an entire list of people who need to become different before you can finally be happy. And that is exactly why happiness remains out of reach. Because you have attached your peace to something you do not control. You cannot control another soul. Read that again. You cannot control another soul. That is one of the most important truths you will ever learn. And yet most people spend years fighting against it. A husband spends decades trying to change his wife. A wife spends decades trying to change her husband. Parents spend years trying to force adult children into different choices. Friends try to reshape friends. Managers try to reshape personalities. Everyone becomes exhausted. Everyone becomes frustrated. Everyone becomes disappointed. Because they are fighting reality. And reality always wins. The battle ends when self-awareness begins. That's the key. Think about how much emotional energy you have wasted trying to control people. How many arguments? How many sleepless nights? How many disappointments? How many conversations replayed in your head? How many moments spent wishing someone would finally understand, finally listen, finally become who you need them to be? Now imagine reclaiming all of that energy. Imagine redirecting it toward your own growth, your own discipline, your own mindset, your own healing, your own life. That is where your power lives. Not in controlling others. In controlling yourself. You have a choice. You can spend your life managing people. Or you can spend your life mastering yourself. Only one of those paths creates freedom. The other creates suffering. Control creates suffering. The more you try to control others, the more powerless you become. Because every attempt at control is a silent admission that your emotional state depends on someone else's behavior. And that is a dangerous place to live. If your peace depends on someone else's actions, then your peace is never truly yours. If your confidence depends on someone else's approval, then your confidence is fragile. If your happiness depends on someone else's cooperation, then your happiness is temporary. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You don't need their agreement. What you need is self-awareness. That's the key. Consider a woman named Sarah. For years she complained about her husband. He wasn't attentive enough. He wasn't affectionate enough. He wasn't ambitious enough. He wasn't emotional enough. Every day she focused on what he lacked. Every day she mentally rehearsed how he should change. And every day she became more frustrated. Then something shifted. She stopped asking, "Why won't he change?" and started asking, "Why am I spending so much energy trying to change someone else?" That question changed everything. She realized she had neglected herself. She had abandoned her own growth. She had attached her emotional well-being to another person's behavior. The moment she reclaimed responsibility for her own happiness, something remarkable happened. Her frustration decreased. Her peace increased. And ironically, the relationship improved. Not because she changed him. Because she changed herself. The battle ends when self-awareness begins. Most people never discover this. Because the ego loves control. The ego believes, if I can just get them to behave differently, I will finally feel better. But that day never comes. There will always be another person. Another disagreement. Another annoyance. Another frustration. The world is full of imperfect people. Just like you. Just like me. Just like everyone. And the moment you accept that truth, you stop demanding perfection from humanity. You stop trying to engineer reality. You stop trying to manage every outcome. You stop trying to rewrite everyone around you. And in that surrender, you find freedom. You cannot control another soul. You can only transform your response. That sentence alone can save years of suffering. Because your response belongs to you. Your attitude belongs to you. Your perspective belongs to you. Your actions belong to you. Those things remain within your control. Everything else is a distraction. Let's be practical. The next time someone disappoints you, pause. Do not immediately focus on their behavior. Focus on your response. Ask yourself, what am I feeling? What expectation was violated? What part of me is reacting? What can I control right now? Those questions return power to you. Most people never ask them. Most people remain trapped in blame. And blame feels powerful for a moment, but it creates weakness over time. Because blame says, "My life is your responsibility." Ownership says, "My life is my responsibility." One creates victims. The other creates leaders. You have a choice. Victimhood or ownership. Blame or responsibility. Control or acceptance. Those choices shape everything. Now understand something important. Acceptance does not mean approval. Acceptance does not mean weakness. Acceptance does not mean allowing harmful behavior. Acceptance simply means seeing reality clearly. If someone is selfish, see it clearly. If someone is dishonest, see it clearly. If someone is unreliable, see it clearly. Then make decisions accordingly. But stop demanding that reality become something it is not. That is where suffering begins. It's not about control. It's about clarity. That's the key. Many people confuse control with strength. But true strength is emotional independence. True strength is the ability to remain centered when others are not. True strength is the ability to maintain your standards without trying to manage another person's choices. True strength is saying, "I cannot control you, but I can control myself." That mindset changes everything. Because now you stop chasing cooperation. You stop chasing validation. You stop chasing agreement. You stop chasing permission. You don't need their permission. You need self-respect. And self-respect grows every time you stop trying to manage someone else's life and start taking responsibility for your own. Think about the strongest people you know. They do not waste energy controlling everyone around them. They focus on their character, their habits, their mindset, their discipline, their actions. They understand a powerful truth. The only life you can fully govern is your own. Everything else is influence at best. And influence is very different from control. You can inspire people. You can guide people. You can encourage people. You can teach people. But you cannot force them. The moment you try to force them, resistance begins. The moment you try to control them, suffering begins. The moment you accept them as they are, clarity begins. And clarity creates better decisions. The battle ends when self-awareness begins. Remember that. Because every person who frustrates you is showing you something. Every difficult relationship is revealing something. Every conflict is acting as a mirror. Not because others are perfect, but because your reactions contain valuable information. And that brings us to the next level of the mirror principle. If you stop trying to change everyone else, you eventually discover something even more important. The real force shaping your life is not other people. It is your identity. The story you tell yourself. the beliefs you carry, the person you think you are. Because whether you realize it or not, your identity is creating your reality every single day. And that is where our journey goes next. The identity you carry creates the life you see. Most people believe their life is shaped by circumstances. They believe success comes from luck. Confidence comes from achievement. Opportunity comes from timing. Relationships come from chance. Money comes from external conditions. But they are looking in the wrong direction. The greatest force shaping your life is not your circumstances. It is your identity. Who you believe you are determines what you believe you deserve. What you believe you deserve determines what you allow. What you allow determines what you experience. And what you experience reinforces who you believe you are. That cycle continues until you consciously interrupt it. That's the key. Your identity becomes your reality. Read that again. Your identity becomes your reality. Most people set goals. Very few people change identity. And identity always wins. A person can set a goal to become wealthy. But if they secretly believe they are not worthy of wealth, they will sabotage every opportunity that moves them closer. A person can set a goal to find love. But if they secretly believe they are unlovable, they will unconsciously destroy healthy relationships. A person can set a goal to become confident. But if they secretly identify as insecure, they will continue behaving like an insecure person regardless of how many motivational videos they watch. Identity always wins. The subconscious mind protects what it believes to be true, even when those beliefs create suffering. That is why people remain trapped for years. Not because they lack intelligence. Not because they lack potential. Because they are operating from an invisible self-image. And that self-image is controlling everything. You do not attract what you want. You attract what you believe you are. That's the key. Think about someone who constantly says they want success. They read books, attend seminars, set goals, create vision boards, work hard. Yet somehow success remains out of reach. Why? Because deep down they carry a different story. The story says, I'm not good enough. I'm not capable. I'm not qualified. I'm not ready. That hidden identity quietly shapes every decision. They hesitate when opportunities appear. They overthink when action is required. They shrink when confidence is needed. They retreat when visibility becomes necessary. Then they tell themselves the opportunity wasn't right. But the truth is more uncomfortable. The opportunity was rejected because it conflicted with their identity. Identity always wins. Imagine a thermostat. A thermostat does not care what temperature you want. It only works to maintain the temperature it is programmed for. Your identity functions the same way. You may consciously want success. But if your subconscious identity is programmed for failure, it will continuously pull you back to familiar conditions. You may consciously want abundance. But if your identity is programmed for scarcity, you will unconsciously create scarcity. You may consciously want confidence. But if your identity is programmed for self-doubt, confidence will feel unnatural. The programming always wins. Until you change it, you have a choice. You can keep focusing on outcomes, or you can focus on identity. One creates temporary change. The other creates permanent transformation. Most people never understand this distinction. They focus entirely on behavior. But behavior follows identity. A person who sees themselves as healthy does not constantly force themselves to exercise. Exercise becomes part of who they are. A person who sees themselves as disciplined does not rely on motivation. Discipline becomes natural. A person who sees themselves as confident does not constantly seek approval. Confidence becomes their default state. It's not about motivation. It's about identity. That's the key. Let's talk about self-worth. Because self-worth sits at the center of almost every struggle. Many people secretly believe they are not enough. Not smart enough. Not attractive enough. Not talented enough. Not valuable enough. The tragedy is that these beliefs often operate below conscious awareness. People rarely say them out loud, but they live them every day, and reality reflects them. The mirror is not attacking you. The mirror is revealing you. Remember the principle from earlier chapters. Your reality is reporting your inner condition. If you secretly believe you are unworthy, life will continuously provide evidence that appears to confirm that belief. Not because life is cruel. Because your identity influences what you notice, what you pursue, what you tolerate, and what you reject. That's the key. Consider a man named Michael. Michael constantly complained that nobody respected him. His boss overlooked him. His friends dismissed him. His relationships lacked appreciation. Everywhere he looked, he saw disrespect. For years he blamed other people. Then he discovered something painful. He did not respect himself. He constantly broke promises to himself, ignored his own standards, abandoned his own goals. The disrespect he saw in others was reflecting the disrespect he practiced internally. The mirror was not attacking him. The mirror was revealing him. The moment he began honoring himself, the world responded differently. Not overnight, but consistently. Because his identity changed. And when identity changes, reality begins to change. You do not attract what you want. You attract what you believe you are. That sentence should stay with you, because it explains so much. Why some people repeatedly attract healthy relationships. Why others repeatedly attract chaos. Why some people create opportunities. Why others miss them. Why some people build confidence. Why others remain trapped in doubt. The external difference often begins internally. Now let's make this practical. For the next week, pay attention to your language. Listen carefully to how you describe yourself. I've always been shy. I'm terrible with money. I'm unlucky. I'm bad at relationships. I never finish things. These statements may seem harmless, but every one of them reinforces identity. Every repetition strengthens the program. Every repetition becomes a command to the subconscious mind. You have a choice. You can continue repeating old identities, or you can consciously create new ones. Start asking different questions. Instead of, why does this always happen to me? Ask, who must I become to create a different result? Instead of, why am I like this? Ask, what identity am I reinforcing? Those questions create awareness, and awareness creates transformation. Because once you see the program, you can change the program. That's the key. The strongest people in the world understand something most people miss. They do not focus primarily on goals. They focus on becoming. Because becoming naturally produces results. A confident identity produces confident actions. A disciplined identity produces disciplined actions. A resilient identity produces resilient actions. And repeated actions eventually create visible outcomes. The world sees the outcome. The wise person understands the outcome began with identity. Your identity becomes your reality. Remember that. Because the mirror cannot reflect something you refuse to become. The life you desire requires a version of you capable of sustaining it. And that version begins with a new identity. But changing identity is not always easy. Because hidden beneath your current identity are old wounds, old beliefs, old emotional injuries, experiences from years ago that still influence your decisions today. You may think you are fighting your circumstances, but often you are fighting wounds you never fully healed. And until you understand those wounds, they will continue shaping your reality from the shadows. The mirror has revealed the identity. Now it's time to discover what created it. The hidden wounds running your life. There is a reason certain situations affect you more than they affect other people. There is a reason some criticism stays in your mind for days. There is a reason rejection feels unbearable. There is a reason abandonment terrifies you. There is a reason success sometimes feels uncomfortable. The answer is not in the present moment. The answer is often hidden in the past. Most people believe they are responding to what is happening today. But very often they are responding to something that happened years ago. A wound. A memory. A belief. A story. A moment that shaped the way they see themselves and the world. And until that wound is understood, it continues running their life from the shadows. That's the key. The wound is not the problem. Living unconsciously from the wound is the problem. Read that again. The wound is not the problem. Living unconsciously from the wound is the problem. Every child enters the world with an open mind. A child does not question their worth. A child does not question whether they deserve love. A child does not question whether they belong. Those beliefs are learned. And unfortunately, many people learn painful lessons very early. A child repeatedly criticized may begin to believe, I am not good enough. A child abandoned may begin to believe, people always leave. A child ignored may begin to believe, I don't matter. A child constantly compared to others may begin to believe, I will never measure up. The child grows up. The body becomes older. The wound remains. And the wound begins creating patterns. That is where the mirror principle becomes powerful. Because the mirror is not showing you today's problem. It is often revealing yesterday's wound. Heal the root. Change the fruit. That's the key. Consider abandonment. A child experiences emotional abandonment. Perhaps a parent leaves. Perhaps a parent is physically present but emotionally absent. The child develops a belief. People leave. Years later they enter relationships. But now something strange happens. They become clingy, needy, anxious, possessive. They constantly seek reassurance. Not because they are weak. Because an old wound is speaking. The adult thinks they are reacting to their partner. In reality, they are reacting to a wound from years ago. The wound is creating the behavior. The behavior creates problems. The problems create pain. The pain appears to confirm the wound. And the cycle continues. The mirror is not attacking you. The mirror is revealing you. What hurts you teaches you. Now think about rejection. Many people live in fear of rejection. Not because rejection is dangerous. Because rejection touches an old injury. A child who repeatedly felt rejected may grow into an adult who avoids risk. They avoid opportunities. Avoid visibility. Avoid leadership. Avoid love. Avoid anything that might expose them to rejection. Then they wonder why life feels small. The problem is not rejection. The problem is the wound. The wound silently controls their decisions. You have a choice. You can continue obeying old wounds. Or you can begin understanding them. One path creates repetition. The other creates freedom. That's the key. Let's talk about criticism. Because criticism creates one of the most common patterns in the world. Perfectionism. Most perfectionists are not chasing excellence. They are running from shame. That is an important distinction. A child who receives constant criticism learns something dangerous. They learn that mistakes are unacceptable. They learn that love must be earned. They learn that being imperfect is unsafe. As adults, they become obsessed with perfection. Every project must be flawless. Every decision must be perfect. Every performance must be exceptional. And because perfection is impossible, they live in constant anxiety. It's not about perfection. It's about protection. The perfectionist is often trying to protect themselves from an old wound. The wound is not the problem. Living unconsciously from the wound is the problem. That's the key. Many people spend decades trying to fix the fruit. Very few people examine the root. They try to fix anxiety without examining fear. They try to fix relationships without examining abandonment. They try to fix confidence without examining shame. They try to fix behavior without examining belief. And because they never address the root, the fruit keeps growing back. Heal the root. Change the fruit. Imagine a tree producing rotten fruit every season. A foolish gardener paints the fruit. A wise gardener examines the roots. Your life works exactly the same way. Your patterns are fruit. Your wounds are roots. The fruit tells a story. The root explains it. That's the key. Now, this does not mean blaming your past forever. Many people make that mistake. They discover a wound and turn it into an identity. Everything becomes their parents' fault. Everything becomes their childhood's fault. Everything becomes someone else's responsibility. That is not healing. That is another form of avoidance. Awareness is the beginning. Responsibility is the transformation. You don't need their permission. You don't need an apology from everyone who hurt you. You don't need the past to change. You need awareness. You need ownership. You need healing. Because the moment you understand the wound, you regain your power. The wound explains your behavior. It does not excuse it. That's the key. For the next few days, pay attention to your strongest emotional reactions. Ask yourself, what does this remind me of? When have I felt this before? What belief might be hiding underneath this reaction? Do not rush the answer. Observe. Reflect. Listen. Many people spend their lives studying the world. Few people study themselves. And that is why they remain trapped. Because the wound remains invisible. The wound remains unquestioned. The wound remains in control. Remember this. Every repeated pattern points somewhere. Every emotional reaction points somewhere. Every fear points somewhere. Follow the trail. Eventually you will find the root. And when you find the root, healing becomes possible. Not overnight. Not instantly. But consistently. Awareness creates choice. Choice creates change. Change creates freedom. You have a choice. You can continue living from old wounds, or you can begin healing them. One path repeats the past. The other creates a future. The strongest people are not the people with no wounds. They are the people who stopped allowing wounds to control them unconsciously. They stopped blaming, stopped avoiding, stopped running, and started looking honestly at themselves. The mirror revealed the wound, and that awareness changed everything. But there is another obstacle waiting. Even after people discover their wounds, many continue fighting themselves every day. They criticize themselves, judge themselves, attack themselves. They become their own harshest enemy. And that silent war creates more suffering than any external circumstance ever could. Because what you reject gains power over you. And that is where we go next. The prison of self-rejection. There is a prison more powerful than failure, more painful than rejection, more destructive than criticism. Most people live inside it for decades without realizing it exists. The prison is self-rejection. It is the silent war you fight against yourself every day. The constant judgment. The endless criticism. The belief that who you are right now is somehow not enough. And because of that belief, you spend your life trying to become worthy of your own acceptance. That is the tragedy. Most people are not fighting the world. They are fighting themselves. And no one wins that battle. You cannot hate yourself into greatness. You cannot shame yourself into peace. Read those words carefully. You cannot hate yourself into greatness. You cannot shame yourself into peace. Most people believe self-criticism creates improvement. They believe being hard on themselves will make them stronger, more disciplined, more successful, more worthy. But look closely at your own experience. Has self-hatred ever created genuine confidence? Has shame ever created lasting peace? Has constant self-attack ever made you feel powerful? Of course not. Because growth does not come from rejection. Growth comes from awareness. Growth comes from responsibility. Growth comes from self-respect. That's the key. Think about the voice inside your head. The one nobody else hears. The one that speaks when you make a mistake. The one that appears after failure. The one that appears after embarrassment. For many people, that voice sounds like an enemy. You're not good enough. You always mess things up. You should be better than this. Everyone else has figured it out. You'll never change. Day after day. Year after year. The voice continues. And eventually something dangerous happens. You begin believing it. The criticism becomes identity. The identity becomes reality. And the prison grows stronger. The mirror principle teaches us something important. What you reject controls you. That's the key. Most people think rejecting a part of themselves will make it disappear. But the opposite happens. The more you reject something, the more power it gains. Reject your fear, and your fear grows stronger. Reject your insecurity, and your insecurity grows deeper. Reject your mistakes, and your mistakes define you. Reject your emotions, and your emotions control you from the shadows. What you reject controls you. This is why self-rejection creates exhaustion. Because you are carrying yourself everywhere you go. You can escape a difficult job. You can leave a difficult relationship. You can move to a different city. But you cannot escape yourself. If you are constantly attacking yourself internally, every environment becomes difficult. Every achievement feels empty. Every victory feels temporary. Because the war continues. Inside, you have a choice. You can continue fighting yourself. Or you can begin understanding yourself. One creates suffering. The other creates freedom. Consider a man named Daniel. Daniel was successful by almost every external standard. Good career. Stable income. Respect from others. But privately he was miserable. Every accomplishment disappeared within days. Every success felt insufficient. Every achievement became another reason to raise the standard. No matter what he accomplished, the voice remained. Not enough. For years he believed the answer was working harder, achieving more, becoming more impressive. But eventually he realized something. The problem was non-achievement. The problem was self-rejection. The problem was that he had built his entire life around earning worthiness. And worthiness cannot be earned. It must be recognized. That realization changed everything. Because he stopped asking, "How do I become enough?" and started asking, "Why do I believe I am not enough?" The second question led to freedom. The first question led to endless struggle. That's the key. Many people are trapped in the same cycle. They believe the next achievement will finally silence the critic. The next promotion. The next relationship. The next business. The next accomplishment. But the critic survives all of them. Because the critic is not fed by reality. The critic is fed by belief. And until the belief changes, the voice remains. You cannot shame yourself into peace. Peace begins where self-war ends. Now understand something important. Self-acceptance is not laziness. Many people fear self-acceptance because they believe it will remove ambition. They think, "If I stop criticizing myself, I'll stop improving." That is not true. In fact, the opposite is often true. Self-acceptance creates the emotional safety necessary for growth. Imagine trying to teach a child through constant humiliation. Would the child become confident? Would the child become resilient? Would the child become secure? Of course not. The child would become fearful, anxious, defensive. Yet many adults use this exact strategy on themselves every day. They become their own bully, their own critic, their own enemy, and then wonder why confidence never arrives. It's not about criticism. It's about discipline. That's the key. Discipline says, I made a mistake. I will learn. Self-hatred says, I made a mistake. I am the mistake. Discipline focuses on behavior. Self-rejection attacks identity. One creates growth. The other creates suffering. Learn the difference, because it will change your life. For the next week, begin observing your inner dialogue. Do not judge it. Observe it. Every time you hear self-criticism, pause. Ask yourself, would I speak this way to someone I love? Most people would never treat another person the way they treat themselves. Never. Yet they accept it internally. That acceptance strengthens the prison. Awareness begins breaking it. That's the key. Another powerful exercise is this. Separate the action from the identity. Instead of saying, I am a failure, say, I experienced a failure. Instead of saying, I am weak, say, I acted weakly in that moment. Instead of saying, I am broken, say, I am healing. Those shifts seem small, but they change everything. Because identity shapes reality. Remember chapter 4. Your identity becomes your reality. If your identity is built on self-rejection, your reality will reflect it. The mirror is not attacking you. The mirror is revealing you. And if the mirror keeps reflecting self-doubt, self-criticism, and insecurity, it is not asking for more punishment. It is asking for awareness. It is asking for healing. It is asking for compassion. Not the weak kind. The courageous kind. The kind that looks honestly at flaws without turning them into identity. The kind that accepts responsibility without creating shame. The kind that allows growth without requiring self-hatred. You have a choice. Continue living in the prison, or begin opening the door. The key has always been awareness. The key has always been self-respect. The key has always been understanding that growth and self-rejection are not the same thing. In fact, they are opposites. You cannot hate yourself into greatness. You cannot shame yourself into peace. What you reject controls you. Remember those words. Because the moment you stop fighting yourself, something extraordinary becomes possible. You can finally see yourself clearly. And when you see yourself clearly, you stop resisting reality. You stop resisting your emotions. You stop resisting your flaws. You stop resisting the truth. And that is where genuine transformation begins. Because before you can change anything, you must first be willing to see it. Not with judgment, not with shame, but with honesty. That lesson takes us to the next chapter. A chapter about the surprising power of acceptance. Because acceptance is not weakness. Acceptance is where real change begins. Accept what you see before you change it. One of the greatest mistakes people make is trying to change what they refuse to see. They want confidence, but they refuse to acknowledge their insecurity. They want peace, but they refuse to acknowledge their fear. They want better relationships, but they refuse to acknowledge their patterns. They want transformation without truth, and that never works. Because you cannot change what you will not confront. You cannot heal what you refuse to acknowledge. You cannot transform what you continue to deny. That is why acceptance is so powerful and so misunderstood. Most people hear the word acceptance and immediately think weakness. They think surrender. They think giving up. They think settling. But acceptance has nothing to do with surrendering your future. Acceptance is about seeing your present clearly. Acceptance is not surrender. Acceptance is clarity. That's the key. Imagine a doctor refusing to acknowledge a disease. Could they treat it? Of course not. Imagine a pilot refusing to acknowledge a storm. Could they navigate it? Of course not. Imagine looking into a mirror and refusing to see what is there. Could you improve anything? Impossible. The same principle applies to your life. The first step toward change is not action. The first step toward change is awareness. And awareness requires acceptance. You must see clearly before you can change wisely. Most people spend years resisting reality. They resist their emotions. They resist their fears. They resist their mistakes. They resist their circumstances. And in doing so, they accidentally strengthen everything they are trying to escape. Because anything resisted gains power over your attention. Think about that. Anything resisted gains power over your attention. The more you fight a thought, the more it returns. The more you resist a feeling, the stronger it becomes. The more you deny a problem, the larger it grows. Resistance feeds what it opposes. That's the key. Consider anxiety. Many people spend years trying not to feel anxious. They fight it, suppress it, hide it, judge it, fear it. And because they fear it, anxiety becomes even stronger. Now consider a different approach. What if instead of resisting anxiety, they acknowledged it? What if they said, "Anxiety is present"? Not, "I am anxiety." Not, "I am broken." Simply, "Anxiety is present." Immediately something changes. The struggle decreases. Awareness increases. Space appears. The emotion loses some of its power. Why? Because acceptance creates clarity, and clarity creates freedom. The same principle applies to fear. Many people believe courage means eliminating fear. But courage has never been the absence of fear. Courage is the willingness to move forward while fear exists. That's the key. The strongest people you know still experience fear, still experience doubt, still experience uncertainty. The difference is that they do not spend their lives resisting those experiences. They acknowledge them, accept them, and continue moving forward. Acceptance is not surrender. Acceptance is clarity. Let's talk about mistakes. Because many people spend years resisting their own past. They replay failures, regrets, embarrassments, missed opportunities, and they continuously argue with reality. I shouldn't have done that. That shouldn't have happened. I wish things were different. But reality does not change because you argue with it. Reality remains. The past remains. The lesson remains. And every moment spent fighting what already happened is energy stolen from your future. You have a choice. Continue arguing with reality, or begin learning from it. One path creates suffering. The other creates wisdom. That's the key. A man named Robert spent years blaming himself for a failed business. Every day he replayed the mistakes. Every day he judged himself. Every day he resisted the fact that it happened. The failure became an emotional prison. Then one day he made a simple shift. He stopped asking, "Why did this happen?" and started asking, "What can this teach me?" Everything changed. The failure remained, but the suffering decreased. Because suffering was not coming from the event. It was coming from resistance. The lesson was always available, but resistance had been blocking it. The mirror is not attacking you. The mirror is revealing you. And sometimes the mirror reveals truths you would rather avoid. That does not make the mirror your enemy. It makes the mirror valuable. Most people want transformation without discomfort. That is impossible. Growth requires honesty. Honesty requires awareness. Awareness requires acceptance. You must see clearly before you can change wisely. Remember that. Because it applies to every area of life. Relationships, money, confidence, health, career, spiritual growth, everything. You cannot improve what you refuse to acknowledge. Now let's make this practical. For the next 7 days, stop labeling experiences as good or bad immediately. Instead, practice observation. When frustration appears, observe it. When fear appears, observe it. When disappointment appears, observe it. Ask yourself, what am I feeling? What am I resisting? What truth am I avoiding? Those questions create awareness. Awareness creates clarity. Clarity creates transformation. That's the key. Another powerful exercise is learning to separate facts from stories. The fact might be, you were rejected. The story might be, I will never be successful. The fact might be, the relationship ended. The story might be, I am unlovable. The fact might be, you made a mistake. The story might be, I am a failure. Most suffering comes from the story, not the fact. Acceptance allows you to see the difference. And once you see the difference, you regain power. Because now you are responding to reality instead of reacting to interpretation. You have a choice. Live from stories, or live from truth. One creates confusion. The other creates clarity. The strongest people are not those who avoid reality. They are those who face reality directly, without denial, without excuses, without self-deception. They see clearly. And because they see clearly, they act wisely. That is why acceptance is powerful. It is not passive. It is active awareness. It is the courage to stop running. The courage to stop pretending. The courage to stop fighting what already exists. And in that courage, transformation begins. Acceptance is not surrender. Acceptance is clarity. You must see clearly before you can change wisely. Remember those words. Because the mirror cannot help someone who refuses to look. But the moment you accept what is there, the possibility of change appears. The possibility of healing appears. The possibility of growth appears. And eventually something even more powerful becomes possible. You stop focusing on who you have been, and begin focusing on who you can become. Because once you accept the present, you gain the power to create the future. And that future depends on one thing above all else: the identity you choose to step into next. The mirror has shown you the truth. Now it is time to become something greater. Become the person your future is waiting for. Most people are waiting. Waiting for confidence. Waiting for motivation. Waiting for certainty. Waiting for opportunity. Waiting for the perfect moment. Waiting for life to finally give them permission to become who they want to be. And while they wait, years pass. Dreams remain unfinished. Potential remains unused. The future remains distant. Because they are waiting for something that was never supposed to come first. They are waiting for confidence before action, when confidence has always been the result of action. That's the key. Confidence is not something you find. Confidence is something you build. And it is built by becoming, not by waiting. Most people believe their future will arrive first. Then they will become the person they want to be. They think, when I become successful, I'll be confident. When I become wealthy, I'll think differently. When I achieve my goals, I'll finally believe in myself. But reality works in reverse. The person comes first. The results come second. Become first. Receive second. Read that again. Become first. Receive second. The future is not waiting for luck. It is waiting for alignment. Think about a confident person. What makes them confident? Is it the money? The status? The achievements? Sometimes, but not always. You have seen wealthy people who are insecure, successful people who are afraid, talented people who constantly doubt themselves. Why? Because confidence is not created by achievement. Confidence is created by identity. A confident person thinks differently before the world rewards them, acts differently before success arrives, carries themselves differently before circumstances change. They become the person first. Then reality begins reflecting that identity. The mirror principle never changes. The mirror reflects who you are being, not who you say you want to become. That's the key. Imagine two people applying for the same opportunity. One secretly believes, I hope they choose me. The other believes, I have value to offer. The words may sound similar. The energy is completely different. One operates from lack. The other operates from identity. One waits for external validation. The other already possesses internal validation. And that difference changes everything. Because people respond to certainty. Opportunities respond to certainty. Life responds to certainty. Not arrogance. Certainty. The future is not waiting for luck. It is waiting for alignment. Most people spend years trying to change their circumstances. Very few spend time changing their identity. And yet identity is the source of everything. If you see yourself as weak, you will hesitate. If you see yourself as capable, you will act. If you see yourself as unworthy, you will settle. If you see yourself as valuable, you will raise your standards. If you see yourself as powerless, you will wait. If you see yourself as responsible, you will move. Identity drives behavior. Behavior creates results. Results reinforce identity. The cycle continues. You have a choice. You can wait for the future. Or you can begin becoming the future. One creates delay. The other creates momentum. That's the key. Consider a woman named Emily. For years she dreamed of starting her own business. She had ideas, skills, experience. everything she needed, except confidence. Or so she believed. Every year she told herself the same story. One day I'll be ready. One day I'll feel confident. One day I'll know enough. That day never arrived. Because confidence was not missing. Action was missing. One day she made a different decision. Instead of waiting to feel like a business owner, she started acting like one. She organized her schedule differently, spoke differently, made decisions differently, learned differently. She stopped asking, "When will I become confident?" and started asking, "What would a confident person do today?" That question changed everything. Because identity began shifting. And as identity shifted, confidence followed. Not before. After. Become first. Receive second. Most people reverse the order. And that is why they remain stuck. Now let's make this practical. If you want confidence, stop asking, "How can I feel confident?" Ask, "What would a confident version of me do right now?" Then do that. If you want discipline, stop asking, "How can I become disciplined?" Ask, "What would a disciplined person do today?" Then do that. If you want success, stop asking, "How can I become successful?" Ask, "What would a successful person focus on right now?" Then do that. The future version of yourself leaves clues. Follow them. That's the key. Many people misunderstand personal growth. They believe transformation happens through information. More books. More podcasts. More courses. More knowledge. Knowledge matters. But identity matters more. Because knowledge without embodiment changes very little. You can read about confidence for years. You can study discipline for decades. You can learn every strategy in the world. But until you begin acting from a new identity, nothing changes. It's not about knowledge. It's about embodiment. That's the key. The strongest people understand this. They stop obsessing over outcomes and start focusing on becoming. Because outcomes are delayed. Identity is immediate. You can choose your identity today. You can choose your standards today. You can choose your behavior today. You can choose your attitude today. You don't need anyone's permission. You don't need external approval. You don't need perfect conditions. You only need a decision. The decision to stop living from your past and start living from your future. That decision changes everything. The mirror responds to who you are. Not who you hope to become someday. Not who you were 10 years ago. Who you are being now. Remember that. Because every day you are sending signals. Through your actions. Your choices. Your habits. Your standards. Your beliefs. Life responds to those signals. The future is not waiting for luck. It is waiting for alignment. Become first. Receive second. For the next 7 days, practice a simple exercise. Before every important decision, pause. Ask yourself, what would the future version of me do? Not the fearful version. Not the wounded version. Not the insecure version. The future version. The strongest version. The most disciplined version. The most confident version. Then act accordingly. At first it will feel unnatural. That is normal. New identities always feel unfamiliar before they feel natural. Keep going. Because repetition creates identity. Identity creates reality. Reality reinforces identity. And eventually the person you were trying to become becomes the person you are. That is transformation. Not pretending. Not fantasizing. Becoming. The mirror has shown you your patterns. Your wounds. Your identity. Your resistance. Now it is showing you your potential. The future version of yourself already exists as a possibility. The question is whether you are willing to align with it. Because every transformation begins with a decision. A decision to become before receiving. A decision to embody before achieving. A decision to align before attracting. And once you understand that principle, another truth becomes impossible to ignore. The quality of your future is reflected in the quality of your relationships. Because relationships reveal what you truly believe about yourself. And the mirror becomes even clearer when another human being enters the frame. Your relationships reveal your self-worth. If you want to understand what someone truly believes about themselves, do not listen to their words. Look at their relationships. Look at what they tolerate. Look at what they chase. Look at what they fear losing. Look at what they repeatedly experience. Because relationships reveal what motivational speeches often hide. Relationships reveal self-worth. That's the key. Most people think relationships are about finding the right person. But before relationships become a reflection of another person, they become a reflection of you. Your beliefs. Your standards. Your boundaries. Your fears. Your self-concept. The mirror principle does not disappear when another person enters your life. It becomes stronger. The mirror never lies. Think about it. Why do some people repeatedly find themselves in relationships where they are disrespected? Why do some people constantly attract emotionally unavailable partners? Why do some people tolerate behavior they know is unhealthy? Why do some people stay where they are not valued? The answer is rarely as simple as bad luck. Very often, the answer is hidden self-worth. Because people tend to accept treatment that matches how they secretly feel about themselves. That's the key. If deep down you believe you are worthy of respect, disrespect feels unacceptable. If deep down you believe you deserve honesty, dishonesty becomes a deal breaker. If deep down you value yourself, unhealthy treatment becomes difficult to tolerate. But if self-worth is weak, standards become weak. And weak standards invite painful experiences. This is not about blame. It is about awareness. Remember the mirror principle. The mirror is not attacking you. The mirror is revealing you. Your relationships reveal your beliefs. A woman may say she wants love, yet repeatedly chooses people who cannot give it. A man may say he wants commitment, yet repeatedly chooses relationships built on instability. The conscious desire sounds healthy. The unconscious belief drives behavior. Identity always wins. That's the key. Consider a man named Jason. Jason constantly complained that women took advantage of him. Every relationship followed the same pattern. He gave endlessly, compromised constantly, ignored his own needs, avoided conflict, and eventually felt resentful. For years he blamed his partners. Then one day he discovered something uncomfortable. He had never learned how to value his own needs. He believed love required self-sacrifice. He believed saying no would make people leave. So he abandoned himself long before anyone else did. The relationship was not creating the problem. The relationship was revealing the problem. The mirror never lies. That realization changed everything. Because once he recognized the pattern, he could change it. Awareness created choice. Choice created transformation. You have a choice. Continue repeating unconscious patterns, or begin examining them. One path creates repetition. The other creates growth. That's the key. Now let's talk about boundaries. Because boundaries are one of the clearest expressions of self-worth. Many people misunderstand boundaries. They think boundaries are about controlling others. They are not. Boundaries are about communicating what you will and will not accept. That distinction changes everything. A boundary is not, you must behave this way. A boundary is, if this behavior continues, I will respond differently. One is control. The other is self-respect. The strongest people understand this. They do not spend their lives trying to control others. They control their own standards, their own actions, their own responses. They understand a simple truth. People respond to the standard you accept. Read that again. People respond to the standard you accept. If you repeatedly tolerate disrespect, you teach people that disrespect is acceptable. If you repeatedly tolerate dishonesty, you teach people that dishonesty has no consequences. If you repeatedly abandon your own needs, you teach people that your needs do not matter. The lesson is not intentional, but it is real, and the mirror reflects it. The mirror never lies. Many people fear boundaries because they fear rejection. They worry people will leave, get angry, become disappointed, withdraw affection. But ask yourself this question: what is the cost of abandoning yourself to keep someone else comfortable? The answer is always too high. Because every time you betray yourself, self-respect decreases. And every decrease in self-respect affects every area of your life. Relationships, career, confidence, mental health, everything. You don't need their permission. You do not need permission to value yourself. You do not need permission to have standards. You do not need permission to protect your peace. That's the key. Now let's examine another powerful relationship mirror: the fear of being alone. Many people remain in unhealthy situations because solitude feels terrifying. They would rather experience familiar pain than unfamiliar freedom. Why? Because being alone forces them to face themselves. And many people have spent years avoiding that encounter. So they settle. They tolerate. They compromise beyond reason. Not because they are weak. Because they are afraid. Afraid of what they might discover in silence. Afraid of what they might feel without distraction. Afraid of confronting their own self-worth. But the truth is simple. The relationship you have with yourself sets the foundation for every other relationship. That's the key. If you constantly criticize yourself, you will seek people who confirm that belief. If you constantly doubt yourself, you will struggle to trust others. If you constantly abandon yourself, you will attract situations that mirror that abandonment. The inner relationship becomes the outer relationship. The mirror never lies. That is why healing self-worth is so important. Not because it guarantees perfect relationships. No relationship is perfect. No person is perfect. But healthy self-worth changes what you tolerate. Changes what you pursue. Changes what you accept. Changes what you expect. And those changes transform your reality. You have a choice. Continue operating from old beliefs, or create new standards. Continue accepting less than you deserve, or begin valuing yourself differently. One path reinforces old wounds. The other creates a new future. That's the key. For the next week, observe your relationships carefully. Do not focus only on other people. Focus on yourself. Ask, what am I tolerating? What am I teaching people about how to treat me? What belief about myself might this relationship be reflecting? Those questions reveal powerful truths. Because relationships are mirrors. And mirrors reveal what words often hide. Remember this. Your relationships reveal your beliefs. People respond to the standard you accept. The mirror never lies. Those three truths can transform every connection in your life. Because the moment you stop looking for answers only in others, you begin finding answers within yourself. And ultimately, that is what this entire audiobook has been teaching. The mirror has shown you your wounds, your identity, your resistance, your self-worth. Now it is time for the final realization. The realization that changes everything. Because once you understand what the mirror is showing you, there is only one thing left to do. Change the source. Change the reflection by changing the source. We have arrived at the final lesson. The lesson that connects everything. The lesson hidden behind every chapter. The lesson the mirror has been trying to teach you from the beginning. Life is not happening to you. Life is happening through you. Read those words slowly. Life is not happening to you. Life is happening through you. Most people spend their lives reacting to reflections. They react to circumstances. They react to other people. They react to setbacks. They react to criticism. They react to rejection. They react to disappointment. And because they spend their lives reacting, they never discover the source. They never discover the place where real transformation begins. The source is within. That's the key. Everything you have learned in this audiobook points to that truth. The mirror revealed your patterns. The mirror revealed your triggers. The mirror revealed your wounds. The mirror revealed your identity. The mirror revealed your self-worth. But the purpose of the mirror was never to make you obsessed with the reflection. The purpose of the mirror was to guide you back to the source. Because the source creates the reflection, not the other way around. Stop fighting the reflection. Transform the source. Your reality changes when you do. Most people try to change their lives from the outside in. They change jobs, change partners, change cities, change routines, change appearances. And sometimes those changes help. But eventually the same patterns return. Why? Because the source remained unchanged. A person who feels unworthy can move across the world. The feeling follows. A person who fears rejection can start a new relationship. The fear follows. A person who lacks self-respect can find a new environment. The pattern follows. Because wherever you go, you bring yourself with you. That's the key. The source travels with you. And until the source changes, the reflection remains familiar. Think about everything we have explored. The trigger was never the problem. The wound was never the problem. The relationship was never the problem. The circumstance was never the problem. Living unconsciously from those things was the problem. The source was always operating beneath the surface. Quietly. Consistently. Powerfully. The mirror never lied. It simply kept showing you what was already there. And now you know. You have a choice. You can continue reacting to reflections. Or you can begin transforming the source. One path creates repetition. The other creates freedom. That's the key. Imagine standing in front of a mirror and noticing that your clothes are covered in mud. You could spend hours cleaning the reflection. You could polish the glass, adjust the lighting, move the mirror, replace the mirror entirely. Nothing would change. The mud would remain. Why? Because the problem was never in the reflection. The problem was at the source. Life works exactly the same way. Many people spend decades polishing reflections. They chase validation, status, approval, recognition, attention. They believe these things will finally create peace. But peace never arrives, because peace cannot be found in the reflection. Peace begins at the source. The source is your mind, your beliefs, your identity, your awareness, your relationship with yourself. That is where transformation begins. Stop fighting the reflection. Transform the source. Your reality changes when you do. Now understand something important. Changing the source does not mean becoming perfect. Perfection is another trap, another illusion, another form of self-rejection. The goal is not perfection. The goal is awareness. The goal is alignment. The goal is conscious living. That's the key. Many people delay transformation because they believe they need more time, more information, more certainty, more confidence. But confidence has never been the requirement. Commitment is the requirement. Awareness is the requirement. Responsibility is the requirement. You don't need their permission. You do not need the world's permission to change. You do not need perfect circumstances. You do not need universal approval. You do not need guarantees. You only need a decision. A decision to stop living unconsciously. A decision to stop repeating old patterns. A decision to stop blaming reflections. And start transforming the source. That decision changes everything. Consider the person who finally takes responsibility for their emotions. Their life changes. Consider the person who finally heals old wounds. Their relationships change. Consider the person who finally develops self-respect. Their standards change. Consider the person who finally changes identity. Their future changes. The external world responds because the internal world changed first. That is how the mirror works. That is how transformation works. Life is not happening to you. Life is happening through you. That's the key. For years you may have believed the world was your obstacle. But what if the world has been your teacher? What if every challenge was feedback? What if every trigger was information? What if every relationship was revealing a belief? What if every disappointment was exposing a hidden expectation? What if every frustration was pointing toward a deeper lesson? Suddenly everything changes. Now life becomes a classroom. Now experiences become teachers. Now obstacles become opportunities for awareness. The mirror becomes valuable because the mirror is no longer your enemy. The mirror becomes your guide. The mirror never lied. It was simply waiting for you to understand what it was showing. You have a choice. You can return to unconscious living. Return to blame. Return to denial. Return to old patterns. Or you can live differently. Observe yourself. Question your beliefs. Challenge your assumptions. Strengthen your identity. Raise your standards. Heal your wounds. Practice awareness. One decision at a time. One day at a time. One moment at a time. That is how transformation happens. Not through one dramatic event, but through repeated conscious choices. Again and again. The future you desire is not hiding somewhere outside of you. It is waiting inside of you. Waiting for alignment. Waiting for awareness. Waiting for action. Waiting for you to become the person capable of sustaining it. The future is not waiting for luck. It is waiting for alignment. Become first. Receive second. Remember those words, because they summarize everything. The mirror is not attacking you. The mirror is revealing you. Your reality is reporting your inner condition. What hurts you teaches you. The battle ends when self-awareness begins. Your identity becomes your reality. What you reject controls you. Acceptance is clarity. People respond to the standard you accept. And finally, stop fighting the reflection. Transform the source. Your reality changes when you do. The mirror has shown you the truth. Now the choice is yours. Will you continue reacting to the reflection? Or will you finally transform the source? Because the moment you change the source, the mirror has no choice but to change with it. And that is where your new life begins. For your entire life, you may have believed that your struggle was outside of you. The difficult people, the failed relationships, the missed opportunities, the lack of money, the lack of success, the lack of happiness. But now you know something most people never discover. The mirror was never the enemy. The mirror was the messenger. Every challenge was revealing a belief. Every frustration was exposing a wound. Every repeated pattern was asking for awareness. The moment you stop fighting the reflection, you finally gain the power to transform the source. And when the source changes, everything changes. Your relationships change. Your confidence changes. Your opportunities change. Your future changes. Because reality has no choice but to reflect what you become. So here is your challenge. For the next 7 days, stop asking, Why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this showing me about myself? Ask it in every conflict. Ask it in every disappointment. Ask it in every victory. The mirror is speaking. The question is no longer whether reality is giving you answers. The question is whether you are finally willing to look.